Tate was born on July 10th of 2019, and shortly after he was born, they heard a heart murmur.
At a month old, we found out the murmur wasn't going to close on its own, and open heart surgery was required.
They wanted him to get to 10 pounds before they did open heart surgery. He had trouble feeding, so he was put on a feeding tube, and he was just unable to gain weight. He was in and out of the hospital on and off from about a month old on. And then on Thanksgiving Day of 2019, Tate went into heart failure.
The following Monday, they did his open heart surgery.
He went in with infected lungs, so the recovery process was hard on him. But we made it through, and we thought the hospital stays were behind us. And then a month later, we found ourselves back in the hospital with him because he was failure to thrive. He was still on the feeding tube. And we found out after a bunch of tests and x-rays that he was aspirating his liquids. So we worked through that and were able to get him on baby food. But then as the months came and milestones came and went, crawling, walking, uttering first words, we were referred to a neurologist who recommended we do a genetic test. A few months later, that came back that he had a rare genetic disorder. At the time, about 50 kids were affected by the mutation known as HNRNPU, which is the gene letters that were mutated, and it was nothing that Lance and I passed. It was a fluke deal that happened. And they told us that kids are impacted by this. They have global delay, intellectual, cognitive delay, epilepsy, nonverbal, possibly autism. From there on out, I was always worried when he was going to have his first seizure. It was hard to go on vacation or do anything in peace because I never knew when the first episode would happen. Lance was harvesting and he had a febrile seizure that required him to go in the ambulance. And then about 2 years old, he was diagnosed with epilepsy. After an EEG, it was determined that he had DEW syndrome, which is a rare epilepsy that is brought in children. He's on the keto diet. He's on medicine. Some days he'll have no seizures, and then some days he might have 30 or plus. You just never know. So epilepsy, it's a tough one to fight. Medicine doesn't always control it like people assume it does.
May of 21, there was a genetic symposium for HNRNPU, and Sonia's mom and her went to it. I was in the field, so they went and met some really good doctors.
Yeah, so my mom and I took Tate to the Rare Gene Symposium for genetic disorders like Tate, and we met a bunch of doctors, researchers working on genetic disorders. We were introduced to a whole realm of science and technology that I didn't even know existed. And here, what I thought Tate's future could be completely changed because of this team of doctors we met. It was unbelievable. They took a biopsy from Tate that they can study to learn more about his gene. And there's a whole team of a lab working on his genetic disorder to try to find a cure or a treatment that could completely change the future. We thought he was going to live with us forever, and now I have a whole different set of hopes for him. He could live on his own, he could farm with Lance, go to college. Some of the kids that have got treatment like this go from not being able to walk. Some of them can talk. It's just crazy what science could do. And if my mom and I had never went to New York, we would have never known this. I got back from New York, and a couple of their parents that I met in New York, we started a nonprofit called Better Future for You to help fund the labs and the researchers and doctors that are so thankfully working on the genetic disorder that is affecting our kids. The problem is there's so few impacted by HNRNPU that it doesn't get the funding that other diseases or rare genetic disorders get, but these kids are just as deserving. So we're asking for your help to give these kids a different future than we ever thought possible. We thought Tate would be living with us forever, and now we have different goals for him, that he could talk, live on his own, possibly farm with Lance, go to college. Now I have a whole new set of dreams for him that I never thought possible, thanks to the doctors that are working on the genetic disorder. So we ask for everyone's support.
So Tate's 4 now, still working on potty training, still nonverbal. He says a few words here and there, but they're few and far between. And when you go somewhere and you see somebody that is his age, it's very apparent that the genetic disorder has set him back.
We're encouraging everybody to go to our website and help support the kids affected by this rare genetic disorder.